Okay, so everybody's favorite segment, Stump My Nephew. Sam, my nephew, is extremely good at gun trivia. Gun history, gun function, gun trivia, you name it. Write us a letter, put a stamp on it, put it in an envelope, send it to our address, and if we use your question on the air, then you'll get a hat or a shirt or some kind of special prize. If you stump my nephew with your gun trivia question, you will get an even specialer prize. So, without further ado, Sam, how's it going, man?
I'm well. How are you guys?
Fantastic. Now, the questions that we ask you on the air, have you ever heard them before? In other words, do we prepare you for those questions?
No, I do not get the trivia questions in advance.
That's right. And do we take great pleasure when we stump you?
Yes, you do.
That's right. I take pleasure in stumping you. Okay. All right. This one, why don't you, Alicia, why don't you fire away?
Sure. Hey, Sam. All right. So your question today comes from Jamie from Vista. And the question is, the M1 Garand was famously chambered in 30-06 Springfield, but during development, it was tested with a different cartridge that used an M1 clip system. What was that cartridge?
Okay. Before you answer.
I was going to say, I was like, you have to give her the same treatment you gave me when I mispronounced that word.
Oh, wait. What were you going to do?
Wait, you have that shirt that says...
Oh,
Garand.
Yeah.
So that's
As
actually,
I got
berated.
As I was reading, I'm like, which way do I go?
that's actually where, I was going to touch on that. If you know Sam, you know he actually has written in depth. He's done a bunch of research on the M1 Garand, which he found out through his research is not Garand. It's actually
Garand.
pronounced Garand. So what I'm saying,
I even have the shirt, by the way.
you have the shirt.
I do have the shirt.
Actually, it's pronounced Garand.
Yes.
Which, by the way, you can buy on our shop.
Yep.
Which
You too can be hoity-toity.
that's right.
That's it.
I know it's so it's so
I love it.
deliciously obnoxious. Anyway,
And of course, the fun is that because it's written on a shirt, you can't tell how the shirt is telling you it's supposed to be pronounced.
right.
Right. That's
Exactly.
what makes it funny.
The shirt there is not pronouncing it.
Right.
And it's got the word actually in it, which is such an obnoxious, comic book store
Actually.
guy, Anyway, what I'm trying to say here is this guy is like throwing a softball down the center of the plate by submitting a Garand question to Sam, my nephew here.
Yeah.
Is this the Jamie that I know?
I don't think so.
Okay.
From Vista.
Well, the Jamie you know from Vista.
Yeah.
I know a Jamie.
Of the Vista Jamies?
Of the Vista, maybe.
Anyway, but that doesn't guarantee a win here, so I don't know. So without further ado, go ahead. Do you need the question repeated, or do you already got the answer?
I've got it. Jamie from Vista, thank you very much for writing in. Jamie asked, he pointed out correctly that the M1 Garand, while it was being produced for U.S. military service, was chambered in 6, though some were later rechambered later, like the Navy had a bunch in 7.62 NATO for a while, and a few countries rebuilt their M1s into something similar in 7.62. The Italians had the M59. There was some Peruvian guy who designed something similar. But anyway, during production, they were in the but during the development, they were chambered for 76 headers. The Army had done some testing in the 20s or maybe the early 30s, I think the late 20s, where they remembered a couple of really useful things about infantry combat. One was that having a self-loading rifle was a literal force multiplier. They did these field exercises. They had a platoon of soldiers armed with full-action M1903s, the current standard, and a platoon armed with I don't know what the trials rifle was at that time, but basically they did simulated combat, simulated firefights, and they found that the platoon with the stealth-loading rifles would be like 40% more effective in combat or something huge like that. The second thing they found out is that reducing recoil encourages much better marksmanship. You can get faster follow-up shots because your sight picture is thrown on the target, which means in turn you can send over rounds downrange more effectively in the same amount of time. lower recoil also has advantages in training because it reduces the kind of clinch reflex that shooters build up, so you don't have to train them to do that so much. And also, if ammunition is smaller, you can produce it less expensively because there's less material, and you can have your soldiers carry a lot more of it for the same weight. So there are all these advantages that the U.S. Army keeps learning and then discarding and then relearning 30 years later. So, like, it sounds like I'm talking about the M16 right now, but I'm not. So when the rifles were going through trials that were competing to become the M1, they were chambered for 276 Patterson, or 7 by 51 millimeter. It was a more aggressive paper cartridge, similar in size, but a little bit smaller. So the trials, the trials Garand rifles, I don't remember the T designation off the top of my head. I think it was the T3E2 Garand had a 10 round capacity in its internal magazine. It was still loaded with that block clips. And it was competing against I think the T1E3 Pedersen with the other finalists, which was in 276 Pedersen. The Pedersen had problems because not necessarily in terms of how good it was as a rifle, but how good it was as a combat weapon. It required lubricating in the magazine to ensure reliable extraction of the spent casings when it was cycling. And that's a problem because those boiler pads extract dust, and the combination of dust and lubricant turns into blood and inside the action. That's not so good. The Garand did not require any lubricated ammunition. It was gas operated. So it had pretty good primary, pretty good extraction ports. Not a great design by today's standards. The gas system is kind of stupid. The bolt is all wrong, but it was phenomenal for the time. It was considered to be more dependable in the field than the Pedersen, so it was adopted. But almost at the last minute, General MacArthur himself stepped in and said, "Okay, this 276 is great, but it's a whole new round that's not in our supply system. 30-06 is in the supply system because that's what the machine guns use. So you need to redesign this rifle to use that for logistical compatibility with everything else in case we get into a war." And that was in 1935. So that would happen about 6 years later. And it ended up, being a huge advantage that it needs standard ammo.
The answer is one sentence, and we just got an amazing lecture on the whole history of it. I was wondering if he was going to get to that. You want to read the?
Yep.
Okay, here's what Jamie from Vista, of the Vista Jamies. Here's what Jamie, him or her, I'm not even sure, him or her sent. This is what the answer they sent.
All right, so you had it correct. It's the 276 Pedersen cartridge. And why was it rejected? It says the answer we were given states, despite offering lower recoil and higher controllability, it was ultimately rejected largely due to logistics. General Douglas MacArthur insisted on keeping the existing 30-06 Springfield stockpiles during the Great Depression, making a caliber switch impractical.
There you go. Which you were right. Foreshadowing. I wonder. It'd be interesting to hear what impact that had. Like, did that was that a factor in helping us win the war? That one decision. It certainly didn't hurt. So that's amazing. Awesome job.
Certainly didn't hurt.
Certainly didn't hurt. General DMAC, I think, which is what Dakota calls him. General DMAC. Awesome job. All right, cool. Anything else to add?
Yeah, there's this really great book that talks about that a little bit. It's called Hatcher's Book of the Garand. It's written by General Julian Hatcher, and it's his book. That's about the Garand. Really creative. But it was a really great resource a few years ago when I was working on the magazine article I wrote about the M1. And it really, I think, is a great read for anyone who's really interested in not just firearm mechanics, but in what it takes to get a military weapon adopted and what it takes to make a good military weapon. Not just a good firearm that's, does what you want it to. It's accurate, it's reliable, but something that is easy enough to produce, something that's easy to train soldiers on. And Hatcher was right there in the thick of it. when the M1 was going through trials. So he really is a primary source on all this. I wrote a review of it for the SBC blog a few years ago. It's called Book Review, Hatcher's Book of the Garand. So go read that, and we'll tell you if you want to.
Here's what we'll attach a link in the description to your article about the Garand. Is that public? Can people see that without going through a paywall?
I don't know if the magazine article is public, but of course the book review is.
The book review, the book report. I like it. You know, a lot of people we're all we're all extremely impressed when we meet like an operator, when we meet a Delta Force or a SEAL or whatever. We should be impressed. Man, those guys, what they do is an amazing thing. But if you talk to career military guys, you know, like 90% of them are logistics. That's really, truly why the American military is so amazing, is their ability to manage logistics is phenomenal. And it's not as sexy, and it's not as, you know, you can't go outside when you're a kid and pick up a stick and play logistics. You know, obviously, you know, guys that are knocking down doors and shooting guns, that's a lot more exciting and everything. But it really, truly is an impressive feat what the American military has been able to accomplish. That's really, truly how we're able to win wars and do amazing things. So, yeah, I look forward to your book. We'll, like I said, we'll do a
name another country whose military can deploy in the space of 24 hours to any point on the globe, a Burger King or a Quick Win.
Yeah, exactly.
You know where they train as kids for logistics, the game Risk.
Yeah, you're right.
That's it.
Yep.
Risk sucks.
What do you play? What do you play? You play some kind of.
Oh, you don't want to know
Settlers
the
of
answers
Catan.
to that question because there are a lot of them.
Oh, really?
Do you play Settlers?
I do enjoy Settlers of Catan. Fantastic game. Very heartwarming, fun for the whole family.
I didn't even know what
That's a good one.
I'm so
I
far
just
behind.
knew it.
It's-
I knew he was a Settlers guy.
That's like BB's first actual board game. Like
Oh my
if
God.
once you
Look at this.
realize
This
that
guy.
Monopoly sucks and is fundamentally not playable.
Do you have all the
move on
expansion
to
packs?
Settlers.
Fundamentally not playable. Monopoly?
Okay, so let's go.
American families all
Yeah,
across
it's
this
designed on
country are playing
purpose as a
Monopoly
game.
right now.
Let's now take this full circle. Do you even more appreciate the T-shirt? Actually, it's pronounced Garand. Doesn't it? Does that whole thing make a whole lot more sense?
It's great.
I got to tell you, I peaked at Risk, Stratego, and Axis and Allies. That was it. I topped out. I'm done. You know, that was it for me. Way more complicated than what you guys are talking about. Is way more complicated than anything I ever experienced. But anyway, so okay, cool. Anything else? Anybody? We good? Awesome job.
I'm good.
Check out the links below. Awesome job, Sam. Again, write your question in.
But please make it harder.
Make it harder. Look at this guy. He's already. Look at how arrogant he already is. I mean, come on. Let's knock him down. All right, cool, man. Thanks, Sam.
Thanks for having me on, as always.
Hey, quick question. If you carry every day, when's the last time you actually wiped down your firearm? Yeah, exactly. Probably a long time. Problem is, sweat, lint, moisture, it builds up fast, and you know you should be taking care of it, but life gets in the way. That's why I like the Seal One gun rag. I just keep it right next to my EDC, and at the end of the day, you do a quick wipe with your Seal One gun rag. It only just takes a few seconds. I mean, it's super easy. Cleans, lubricates, protects, all in one step. Smells nice too, so you can dab it behind your ears and use it as aftershave. Go grab a Seal One gun rag at your local store and make it a part of your routine. Seal One gun rag, check them out.
If you liked that segment, be sure to give us a like, a comment, and go to youtube.com/gunownersradio and subscribe to our channel. Be sure to share us with a friend. Every view counts.